Before you can exploit anything, you need to know what is running. The reconnaissance from episode 3 gave you domain names, emails, and subdomains. Now it is time to find what is actually listening on those hosts. Nmap, the network mapper, is the tool that turns an IP address into a complete picture of open ports, running services, software versions, and operating systems. Security professionals have been using it for over 25 years. It ships pre-installed in Kali Linux. And it is the first tool in every professional penetration tester's workflow the moment they have a target in scope. This is Ethical Hacking Episode 4. By the end of this episode, you will know how to discover which hosts are alive on a network using ARP and ICMP sweeps, how to perform TCP, SYN, and UDP port scans and understand what each reveals, how to detect service versions and operating systems with a single flag, how to automate security checks with Nmap's built-in scripting engine, how to control scan speed and aggression to stay under detection thresholds, and how to save results in every useful output format. This entire episode runs against your Metasploitable lab from episode 2, completely isolated, completely legal, completely safe to practice on. Host discovery is step 1 of any network scan. Before you scan ports, you need to know which IP addresses have a live machine behind them. On a local network, Nmap can use ARP requests. The command, sudo nmap, SN followed by the network range in CIDR notation, for example 192.168.56.0/24. The SN flag means ping scan with no port scan, just check which hosts respond. ARP is highly reliable on local segments because every machine must respond to ARP for the network to function. On the internet, where ARP does not reach, Nmap uses ICMP echo requests, ICMP timestamp requests, and TCP probes to determine whether a host is alive. Without root permissions, Nmap falls back to TCP Connect probes for host discovery. With root, it uses raw packets and ARP, which is far more reliable. Always run Nmap as root in your lab using sudo nmap. The key flag combinations for host discovery, SN for ping sweep with no port scan, PE to force ICMP echo, PS2280 for 43 to use TCP SYN packets to specific ports to check if a host is alive. In your Metasploitable lab, a simple sudo nmap, SN 192.168.56.0/24 will reveal every machine on the host-only network, your Kali host, Metasploitable, and any other VMs you have running. Port scanning is where Nmap identifies which network services a host is offering. Every service runs on a port, SSH on 22, HTTP on 80, HTTPS on 443, FTP on 21, SMB on 445. Nmap tests thousands of ports to see which ones respond. The default TCP scan, sudo nmap, ST followed by the IP address. This uses a full TCP three-way handshake, SYN then SYN-ACK then ACK, to establish a complete connection before immediately closing it. Every connection gets logged on the target. Useful for diagnostic purposes, but it is the loudest possible scan. Every connection attempt lands in the target's logs. The preferred scan for penetration testers is the SYN scan, also called a stealth scan or half-open scan, sudo nmap, SS followed by the IP, and Nmap sends a SYN packet. If the port is open, the host sends SYN-ACK. Nmap immediately sends RST instead of completing the connection. The session never fully opens, so many logging systems miss it. For UDP, sudo nmap, su. UDP scanning is slower because there is no handshake. Nmap sends a UDP packet and waits for an ICMP port unreachable response for closed ports, or silence for open or filtered ones. To scan both protocols together, sudo nmap, ss, su, p1 to 1024 for a comprehensive scan of the first 1000 ports on both TCP and UDP. An open port tells you a service is listening. Service version detection tells you exactly what is listening and which version is running. This is critical because exploits are version specific. Add the SV flag, sudo nmap, SV followed by the IP, Nmap connects to each open port and sends carefully crafted probes designed to elicit banners and version strings. An SSH port reveals OpenSSH 7.2. FTP reveals vsftpd 2.3.4. HTTP reveals Apache 2.2.8. These version strings map directly to CVE databases. vsftpd 2.3.4 is famously vulnerable to a backdoor inserted in 2011 when attackers compromised the official source package. It is deliberately present in Metasploitable. Nmap will find it in seconds. The A flag enables aggressive detection, sudo nmap, A followed by the IP. This is the combination flag, service version detection, OS fingerprinting, default NSE Scripts scanning, and traceroute, all in one command. This is your go-to for a thorough target analysis when detection is not a concern. In your Metasploitable lab, run sudo nmap, A followed by your Metasploitable IP. The output will be extensive. You will see every open port, every identified service and version string, the results of the default NSE Scripts, and an initial OS guess. This single command output is the foundation of your exploitation planning in episode 7. Operating system fingerprinting uses Nmap's analysis of how a host's network stack responds to specific probe sequences to infer the OS type, version, and sometimes the specific build. Add the O flag, sudo nmap, O followed by the IP. Nmap sends a series of TCP, UDP, and ICMP probes designed to elicit responses that vary by operating system implementation. The TCP IP stack fingerprint, window sizes, TTL values, IP ID patterns, TCP option ordering. These differ between Windows, Linux, Mac OS, and embedded systems. Nmap compares the observed fingerprint against its database of over 5,000 OS signatures. OS detection requires at least one open and one closed port to be effective. Nmap needs both to compare responses across the fingerprint signature. In practice, on Metasploitable you will see, running, Linux 2.6.x, OS details, Linux 2.6.9 to February 6, 33. On a Windows Server host, running, Microsoft Windows 2008 through 2012, OS details, Microsoft Windows Server 2008 R2SP1. This intelligence directly informs your exploitation approach. Linux kernel 2.6.x is old enough to have multiple publicly known local privilege escalation vulnerabilities. Knowing the OS lets you target your escalation techniques precisely in episode 10 instead of running generic checks hoping something matches. The Nmap scripting engine is Nmap's most powerful capability and the feature that separates a basic port scanner from a reconnaissance platform. NSE Scripts are Lua programs that Nmap executes against each target to perform specific checks, from safe information gathering to active vulnerability detection. Scripts are organized into categories. Safe scripts collect information without risk. Script equals banner grabs raw banners. Version scripts extend service detection and are automatically included with SV. Auth scripts check for common credentials and anonymous access. Vuln scripts check for specific vulnerabilities. Script equals vuln runs the entire vulnerability category against every open port in sequence. Practical NSE usage that pentesters run on every engagement. Sudo nmap, script equals smb, vuln, ms17-010 followed by the IP checks for Eternal Blue, the vulnerability used by WannaCry and NotPetya. Sudo nmap, script equals http title, p80443 grabs the page title from every web server on the target. Sudo nmap, script equals ftp-anon checks whether FTP allows anonymous login. Sudo nmap, script equals ssh-auth-methods, p22 reveals which authentication methods SSH accepts. Sudo nmap, script equals vuln runs every vulnerability detection script in the library. The NSE library contains over 600 scripts covering every major protocol. Scripts live in /usr/share/nmap/scripts and you can read, modify, and write your own. Timing control directly determines whether your scan is detected. Nmap has 6 timing templates from T0 to T5. T0 is paranoid, 1 probe every 5 minutes, designed to evade intrusion detection systems with low-rate detection thresholds. T1 is sneaky, a 15-second delay between probes. T2 is polite and slows the scan to reduce bandwidth usage. T3 is the default, balanced timing. T4 is aggressive, faster probes, shorter timeouts, good for fast local networks when noise does not matter. T5 is insane, maximum speed, trades accuracy for raw throughput, only practical on local targets with reliable connectivity. In your lab, use T4, sudo nmap, T4, SV followed by the IP. Saving results is as important as running the scan. Nmap offers 3 output formats. ON for human-readable normal output to a file. AUX for XML output that imports directly into Metasploit, Nessus, and every reporting platform. OG for greppable output that pipes cleanly to awk and grep for fast field extraction. Combine them with OA followed by a base file name and Nmap writes all 3 simultaneously. Professional workflow, create a scans directory and run sudo nmap, T4, SV, SE, OA scan/Metasploitable followed by your target IP. This generates 3 files, Metasploitable.nmap, Metasploitable.xml, and Metasploitable.nmap. The XML file feeds directly into Metasploit with db_import. Every scan is timestamped, documented, and reproducible. That is the evidence chain that goes in your pentest report. In episode 7, you will take every open port and service version map revealed and feed it directly into Metasploit. You will search for vsftpd 2.3.4, find the Metasploit module for its backdoor, set the target IP, run the exploit, and land a root shell on Metasploitable. Every decision in that episode, which module to use, which port to target, which payload to choose, depends entirely on the scan output from this episode. Nmap is not just a tool you run once. It is the map you navigate the entire engagement with. The authorization rule is unchanged and it does not bend. Run these scans against your Metasploitable lab on your host-only isolated network from episode 2. Bug bounty programs with explicitly defined IP ranges in their scope permit active scanning within those boundaries. Client engagements require a signed scope document specifying the exact IP ranges, allowed scan types, and testing window. A T3 Nmap scan against a production host you do not own will appear in the target's logs, may trigger alerts, and without written authorization is unauthorized access. The tool is legal. The target is what determines the law. Know your scope before you run a single packet. Your Metasploitable VM is already running right now. Open a Kali terminal. Run sudo nmap t4svsc scan/metasploitable followed by your Metasploitable IP, watch the port list populate. Find vsftpd 2.3.4 on port 21. Note Apache 2.2.8 on port 80. Look for port 445 and check whether the SYN scripts found anything. This is the target profile that drives every exploitation episode from 7 onward. The ethical hacking series continues in order, each episode builds directly on the last. Subscribe and hit the bell. Drop your Nmap output in the comments. Tell me the most unexpected port you found open. I will see you in episode 5.